The 4 Grey operatives accompanying the Blackhearts were led by an elven mage named Lyra Moonshadow. She introduced the 2 knights with her, Corporal Alan Stormwind, a seasoned warrior with a stern expression, and Sergeant Thorn Blackwood, whose name gave Faraday pause. Lyra explained that each knight would cover an exit to the estate for the duration of the search. Faraday suggested that the party split in 2 to hunt down the doppelgangers and find Jacob. He and Horin would enter via the rear of the estate, while Gideon and Blackheart would stay with Moonshadow. Blackheart, feeling an unsettling sense of lust he couldn't satiate, suggested they simply kill everyone in the estate. The others chose to ignore the comment. Upon arriving at the estate, they produced the writ and requested that everyone muster in the atrium for testing. Renfield hastily complied, sending a servant to ring a summoning bell and excusing himself to bring the upstairs guests to the foyer. They were left with a competent head of staff who began organizing people as they entered the room, all under the supervision of Gideon and Moonshadow. Meanwhile, Faraday and Horin entered through the rear of the estate, heading towards the kitchen in hopes of finding their contact, the chef, Alarin Swiftwind. They heard the ringing bell and saw staff scurrying down the passageways toward the front of the estate. In the kitchen, they found a disgruntled Alarin insisting he wouldn't leave his food to spoil, refusing the summons. After explaining their situation and testing Alarin, the elf revealed rumors about a room in the West Wing where people entered but never left. He directed them to the room via the servants' stairs. In the atrium, the staff were lining up in an orderly fashion, but there was still no sign of Renfield. Gideon resolved to head upstairs to locate him, and Moonshadow followed, leaving the testing in the hands of the head of staff. Gideon headed towards the guest suites. Blackheart suggested they take the opportunity to search Fairweather's office. Upon entering the office, it became apparent it would be difficult to search thoroughly under Moonshadow's watchful eye. Gideon, however, noticed a faint smell of spices, a scent he associated with the kindly man, allowing some of his more bestial senses to come to the fore without alerting Moonshadow. Gideon began to track the scent through the estate. Faraday and Horin made their way quietly to the servants' quarters upstairs, hoping anyone left there would be a likely suspect. Following Alarin's directions, they passed an empty dormitory as the bell abruptly stopped. Without the distracting noise, Horin listened intently and heard the clicking of a heavy-duty lock in the direction they were heading. With Faraday on point, they picked up the pace, stealthily approaching a corridor with a grand and imposing door, featuring a large, ornate lock. As Faraday checked for traps, another door at the far end of the corridor opened, revealing Gideon and Moonshadow, who had followed the scent from the opposite side of the estate. A terse, hissed, yet ludicrous exchange took place as each tried to ascertain if the other had been infiltrated, whilst maintaining an air of surprise for their mutual quarry. Satisfied that everyone was still in their original form, Faraday offered Horin the opportunity to pick the lock, perhaps to gauge his skill. Rising to the challenge, Horin put on a show of bravado, and the lock clicked open. The party gathered, weapons ready, and burst through the door into what, anticlimactically, appeared to be an empty guest suite with no other means of exit. Gideon noted the smell of spices permeated the room, suggesting the person leaving the scent spent considerable time there. Blackheart reminded everyone that the last time they were here, they conducted the performance of a lifetime. Faraday and Horin searched the room for anyone hiding. Eventually, Faraday noted grooves in the floor. With Horin's help, they discovered a latch opening the way through a false wall into a small, dimly lit chamber. The hidden chamber was sparse. At one end, a large, dusty canvas covered a painting on the far wall with a small trunk tucked into a corner. At the other end was a writing desk strewn with several Netherese noodle cartons. Worryingly, there was still no sign of occupants. Searching the desk, the Blackhearts discovered a coded journal and a half-written letter, also in code. While the others attempted to decipher the writing, Faraday examined the trunk. Visually, it showed no signs of traps, but as he went to open it, the surface ebbed and flowed over his hand, becoming a sticky, enveloping substance akin to warm dough. Faraday stared in mounting horror as his forearm was enveloped, revealing a large set of teeth and several flailing pseudopods. Battle was joined, the creature's mouth clamping down on Faraday's armor, causing it to hiss and smoke upon contact with digestive juices. The others, realizing what was happening, rushed to his defense. Faraday pulled free as a crossbow bolt from Horin sank into the malleable flesh of the entity. Gideon drew Blackheart, and with a dual scream of bloodlust, they swung at the creature, hacking off globs of oozing flesh. As its ambush failed, the creature shot out a string of flesh-like pseudopods toward the ceiling, dragging its form up above head height and starting to take the form of a chandelier. Horin, remembering his earlier purchase, threw a fat grub at the creature, which swiftly disappeared into the undulating maw. Sensing an opportunity, and guided by Blackheart's hunger, Gideon struck. As the blade found the center of the beast, Blackheart felt a surge of energy transfer from the creature to his blade. The pulse made its way down the blade, and Blackheart felt a growing sense of relief, satisfaction, and euphoria. When it reached the gem in the hilt, the energy was swiftly sucked away, accompanied by a psychic shriek of terror. Then silence. Blackheart was satiated, and Gideon felt a surge of adrenaline and energy. What was left of the creature was a shriveled husk in the corner. Surveying the destruction, the Blackhearts noted that the fight had disturbed the nearby canvas, revealing another room behind it. Removing the painting revealed a chamber with a teleportation circle in the center and the likely means of their quarry's escape. Moonshadow suggested the room had been built for this purpose, not uncommon in some older estates in the city. The Blackhearts surmised their quarry had fled via magical means. Moonshadow used her magic to confirm the circle had indeed been used. Gideon, now almost frantic with energy, insisted on jogging around the room. Horin and Blackheart, through Nyx, elected to search the estate for Jacob. The others began deciphering the texts. Jacob was located, tied and hooded but otherwise well, in the rear of one of the guest suites. He had little information, saying his captors quickly incapacitated and desensitized him days ago, offering food and bathroom relief intermittently. Faraday and Moonshadow eventually deciphered the letter, which said, "Operations going according to plan. Bratva situation will soon be resolved. I have located the next artifact. Nothing to fear from the meddlers. They lack the intellect. Someone or something has been aiding them. I will know." The message stopped, and the ink was still wet. When Jacob was led to the others, there was brief celebration, with Gideon clapping him on the shoulder. Jacob, running his eyes over the letter, noted it was penned by a hand not accustomed to common. This, along with the letter's contents, led Blackheart to suspect the Sinola might be involved. Moonshadow summoned the watch to the estate to take over investigations. She insisted the journals they found be submitted to Force Grey's custody, while Jacob's statement was taken by pompous watchmen. None of the staff were revealed as doppelgangers, though it was noted the chef was not only untested but also not on the staff register. The watch officers seemed to dismiss Jacob's version of events, perhaps attributing it to the excessive lifestyles of the elite. Disheartened, but unsurprised, the Blackhearts elected to head back to the Bratva to report these events, making their way toward the drunken elf.